Hey there and welcome. My name is Pete and this is the usual monthly channel update for July 2022. Temperatures are currently fast approaching 40 degrees here in Germany, or about 104 for you Fahrenheit folks, and we are not really used to or prepared for that, so please forgive me for wanting to keep this video somewhat short. My little office where I record my videos is currently not really the place I enjoy hanging out in. Still, there are a few things to talk about this month, starting with another look at some numbers from the previous one. As you might remember, in the channel update for June, I talked a bit about what an extended period of absence can do to a YouTube channel, in terms of metrics like views, watch time, subscribers, and ultimately, of course, ad revenue, and I illustrated that with a chart of the most recent XCOM episodes. Now, obviously, I was not particularly thrilled with the downwards trend that was very clearly noticeable in that chart, and for that reason I am now happy to report that being able to record and upload videos a bit more regularly seems to have had a similarly noticeable effect, albeit in the upwards direction. To put that into numbers, back in June, Pete Complete was watched only 455,000 times, not quite at or above the level of 500 to 600,000, which I have set as the baseline that I try to achieve each month. In contrast, in the still ongoing month on July, we are back on track for 600,000, so it looks like the worst is behind us. Of course, from your perspective, these numbers might not mean that much, and I also don't want to come off as overly fixated on the metrics, but for a channel of my size, and one that, for better or worse, is responsible for one part of my monthly income, it is important to at least keep an eye on these things. And the fact that I was able to course correct just with a few more regular uploads and that I did not have to rely on clickbaiting, that makes me confident that the channel's overall concept and approach will continue to work in the foreseeable future, just like they have until now. If you are interested, by the way, my monthly benchmark metrics, if you will, are the aforementioned 500 to 600,000 views, which with the content I produce usually results in about 120 to 150,000 hours of watch time. The influx of new subscribers, meanwhile, is a bit harder to assess, as I have found that to be a lot more dependent on whether or not we have recently launched a new series, but for the most part I'd like to have that in the low four figures as well. Ad revenue, meanwhile, probably the most interesting metric for all of you, that could unfortunately be an entire video of its own, as it depends on so many other factors that I have no control over, so for the moment I basically just accept whatever comes out at the end of the month. Again, not quite sure how interesting all of that is for you, but I know that there are some among you guys who have followed the channel for many years now, and perhaps these little insights help put into perspective how much it has grown since then. They definitely do that for me. Now, enough about the numbers, let's talk about our 3 currently ongoing series, starting with what is still the channel's flagship, if you will, Rimworld. The recent addition of the blindside meme to our playthrough definitely gave the series a bit of a fresh breath, although I have to say the Cult of Jinx and its tribal nature have really grown on me, and I wasn't expecting to have so much fun artificially restricting myself to maybe about only 25% of the cool mechanics that the game has to offer. I still fear that reaching the wealth limit for the first ideology threshold will not entirely be possible without picking up some guns, but even then, a tribal psycaster swamp cult with covered faces and assault rifles, that still feels very much in line with the tone of the series, or in other words, the great bows are certainly not the defining feature of this playthrough, so I don't think anyone is going to be too disappointed if we eventually have to shoot some bullets. So that series is certainly not going anywhere. As a matter of fact, the next episode is about to release in just a few days, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, let's talk about XCOM 2, which, just like its predecessor, has quickly turned into my secret favorite on the channel. There is just something about XCOM that makes it really hard to stop playing once you've gotten into the groove, and if I did not have 2 other series to worry about, I would probably be uploading XCOM videos non-stop. That's not to say that I don't enjoy the other 2, far from it, but I think XCOM just scratches a very particular itch that I enjoy immensely. Now that we have a few episodes behind us, I also feel like playing with the admittedly sometimes a bit overwhelming War of the Chosen expansion was the right choice, as things like the tiredness mechanic have forced me to rotate through the pool of soldiers a lot already, which in turn gives all of those community-created characters their well-deserved time to shine. I hope that we can keep that going, as there are already well over 100 characters in the pool, and I am still receiving more every week. By the way, if you want to submit your own creation, I have a video on how to do that. You can find that linked on screen as well as down below. And that brings us to Mass Effect 3. Yes, that series is also still there, and I am admittedly a bit sad that I often just don't find the time to give it the attention of the other two series. Unfortunately, this is one of those business decisions that I occasionally have to make, even though I still very much enjoy the game even after several playthroughs. Despite all of the criticism that it has received over the years, I still believe that Mass Effect 3 brings the trilogy to a worthwhile finale, and I really enjoy showing off all of its little bits and pieces. Those do, however, also include a pretty hefty number of storyline DLC, which is certainly not helping the length of the series, but it would hardly be a completionist playthrough if we skip those. I hope that I can take some time off from my other job over the summer and maybe squeeze out a few more episodes during August and September, but as much as it saddens me to say this, I cannot make any promises at this point. I'm sure that most of you are aware that making these videos takes a lot of time, and if you haven't already, feel free to check out the How I Make a Video video that I posted last year, so even though the actual output might not always feel like much, the workload behind it can be quite time-consuming. Nonetheless, I remain very much optimistic regarding the second half of the year. I am still excited for all three of our series, and I am also very much looking forward to whatever comes afterwards. For today though, I think we can slowly start wrapping things up at this point, but before we do, let us first give a big shout out to all the new Patreon supporters who joined the channel in June. So as always, in no particular order, I want to say thank you to That One Bloke, Sorcerer7, Matthias Hahn, David Gleaton, Cone Peelan, Don Russell, Richard, Steve, Rob Harrop, Raul Acuna, Nelson Bowen, Deletall, Flashlight Toast, Jacob Fast, Lucky S-Time, Enrico Migliorini, Alex, The Overlord, Ewan, Key Ketchum, Wing, and Ben Carter. I hope I pronounced all of your names correctly. Above all though, thank you all so much for your support. And I think that's it for today, so as always, if you enjoyed the video, then I would be very happy if you could leave a thumbs up. If you like what I'm doing and want to support me and my channel further, then you can of course go ahead and subscribe to stay up to date, grab some merch over on shop.petecomplete.com, or check out and maybe even pledge to the Pete Complete Patreon. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.